بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. وزرای محترم، همکار بین‌المللی، خواهر و برادر عزیز، سلام علیکم، خوش آمدید. من تشکر میکنم از شرکتتان و از وزارت قائدانه و ایدیبی به خاطر قبولی کوچه ریزی. کمیته اجرائیوی ضرورت تشکیل کمیته بود، بحث‌های ابتدایی بسیار طولانی دوام کرد. یک وقت فکر میکردیم در چوکات شورای عالی زیربنا شاید یعنی مشکل حل بود. بعدتر اطلاع پیدا کردیم که با ماها جلسه صورت نمیگیره که یک قسمت کارهای دیگه که آغاز شده مثل قانونه که وزیر یادآوری کردن یا پلیسی که بیشتر از او یادآوری شد، اینا سرش کار شده. حتی در مجلس موجود ما از قانون که عملی در کابینه بودن خبر داشتن، پالیسی هم از کابینه تیر شده، اما اونطور آگاهی که باز برای الزام برای تطبیقش باشه و یا وجود نداشته. پس اساسی ترین مسائل همون مسائلی بود که در ابتدا وزیر یادآوری کردن که دیدگاه عمومی برای آینده که ما چی می‌خوایم داشته باشیم و کدام طرف بریم این موجود نبوده که همه چیز در بر میاد. و دوم مسئله هماهنگی و باز مسئله قوانین و یک کاری که دوامدار باشه، پایدار باشه. دوامدار بودنش و یکی تسلسلش هست، که پایدار بودنش هست که ما این کار امروز میکنیم و باز فردا باز با مشکل مواجه میشیم. از این لحاظ در جنبه‌های حقوقیش کار شده که پالیسی یکی از وظایف همین کمیته انتخاب بود که اگر در پالیسی کدام تجدید نظر ایجاد میکنه شریک شود. در غیر از اون قانون هست و با یک قسمت ملاحظات وقت در کابینه یادآوری شده. پالیسی هم در مطابقت با اون قانون در تطبیقش ما باید تقسیم وظایف و این چیز ضرورتش که حفظ مراقبت زیربنا چقدر مهم است به مثال ضرورت نداره و یک مثال بسیار خوب به سرک کابل قندهار هست. چی وقت دیگه افغانستان 1,000 میلیون دلار و یک جاده میتونه که جلب کنه از کمک‌های بین‌المللی. یک مرحله بود گذشت، اما برای حفظ مراقبت هیچ نوع پیش بینی نشده بود که امروز تقریبا در بعض بیشتر مناطق حالی که ترمیمات از طرف وزارت فایده عام در جای صورت گرفتن، اما در بعض موارد از وضعیت پیش از ساختن سرک در بدتر است. پس همین دو مسئله که امروز مورد بحث ما بود، یک جلسه قبلا وزیر صاحب با شما در بود اینو ابتکار شفافیت و حسابدهی در زیربنا. تعهد ما در اون بسیار مسئله مهم و اساسی است که ما نقاط ضعف و نقاط آسیب پذیری را پیدا کنیم و حسابدهی کامل داشته باشیم و شفافیت تضمین شده باشه که در اون سر جنبه‌های مختلفش بحث کردیم، از جمله نقش مردم. بخش دوم هماهنگی بین نهادها، چیزی که بیشتر مثلا به سوال غالب صاحبان ارتباط میگیره، اونا از لحاظ مسائلی که در داخل کار مربوط به خود شما میشن. شما کارتان برنامه برای حفظ مراقبت هم دارید و یک نمونه خوب هم هست، اما از لحاظ هماهنگی که با دیگران باید صورت بگیره باز اینمی جایش هست. مثل ارتباطی که فایبر نوری با بخش جاده میگیره، جاده ساخته میشه، بعد باید فایبر نوری چی شود. آن یک پیشبینی حداقل وجود داره که برای فایبر نوری حتمی است پیشبینی شود هر جایی که جاده ساخته میشه. اما در گذشته این مسئله نبود. مسائل سوار سیستم است، کانالیزیشن است، همین که برای خروج آبای کابل در شهر کابل می‌بینید. So examples are too many, and it's good that EDB has accepted co-chairmanship with us. We will invite World Bank as well. I think it must have been raised with them already, but I will. Yeah.
We have already working with the
Okay.
World Bank, yeah. So
Okay. As far as the main stakeholders, and it doesn't mean that those others are less important. The point is that to coordinate with everybody, how to prioritize, where to focus, because we cannot move on all directions. That part, the Ministry of Agriculture, it's a must that it has to be there, and if there are any other sector that is not being included, that also could be included there. So the relevance of DAB's presence here is important, the World Bank, of course, and it's to share our experience with other executive committees. In the question will be that why we started so late. It's the same type of experience that we don't want to be repeated. At the beginning, we decided that we will establish these 10, or at the beginning it was 12, but later on 10 executive committees altogether. But we didn't have those resources available, the personnel, to focus on all of them. So then we went as far as availability of resources, the readiness of the co-chairs from our international partners, because in some cases they were reluctant to participate, and without them the idea of having all stakeholders around a table wouldn't have been materialized. So we started with the PRISEC, which is the Private Sector Executive Committee, which is an effective, very effective executive committee. World Bank is co-chair, together with other co-chairs. At the same time, the Committee for the Refugees and Returnees and different. This one, consultations with the Ministry of Public Work, as well as through them with the EDB, also took some time. But at the same time, we were also waiting to see what happens to the law, to the policies. Now we are, though it is toward the end of the unity government. I don't want to remind myself that we are coming to an end, as far. But it is coming on us.
One good thing.
The thing is that there has to be, whatever the future system in our country, there has to be a body like this in the government, that we have all stakeholders around. When we move towards PPP, the presence, even right from the beginning, the presence of the private sector is also. Minister, yourself, with the in consultation with relevant institutions, see which part of the private sector could be represented here. Because we need to move towards PPP, and we have also, there are cases that we have already moved towards it. So the presence of the private sector is important, and the co-chairmanship of EDB, apart from being a donor, a major donor, which we are grateful for your contributions, or you and UNAP's colleagues. Though I'm aware of the ups and downs which comes in between, has come in between, and so on and so forth, but these are part of work. In other stakeholders, the World Bank and representatives of the donor community should be included in later stages. In other executive committees, they are. So EDB is a major donor, World Bank is a donor, but also countries should be encouraged to join. That one we can do it after we have a more clear roadmap for the committee. Today was the preliminary discussions. There were some points raised that all of them should be taken into account, and then one or two other decisions has to be made, like in what intervals do we have these meetings. My commitment will be that in a monthly meeting I can come and participate and be present. But in between, you should have a mechanism amongst yourselves to provide the agenda. The agenda shouldn't be so dispersed that we could not pursue. It has to be according to the priorities, the targets and the goals, timeline, what do we want to achieve in the realm of our conditions and possibilities and resources. And then there is another part that, for example, what was mentioned there by the Minister of Culture, or yourself mentioned, there is another thing that we need to do with the Budget Committee. But these are type of activities in entry. In the long term, sustainability, I think it will be very difficult for any government to provide budget to take responsibility for it forever. So we need to see what will be the contributions from the people. What does PPP brings to this, the role of the private sector, and so on and so forth. Also to try to address some critical points at the beginning. For example, again, that's just to shed light on the way that we want this to move forward. I gave the example of the pricing, which is the Executive Committee for Private Sector Development, which the private sector is there, donors are there, different agencies, sectors are there, and we are moving the agenda for private sector development. In London conference, there were 11 goals for the private sector development, priorities agreed upon by the private sector themselves, presented to us in London conference, and then Afghanistan government committed itself that we are committed to achieve these goals. And then in the Afghanistan National Development, Peace and Development Framework, according to national priority programs, we developed private sector development national priority programs. And then the committee divided itself into subcommittees. Here I'm not for one committee or 10 committee, it has to be in accordance to the work. To begin with, it could start with two, like the example which was given. One is the buildings, mainly the infrastructure, and then one is the vertical and one is the horizontal infrastructure. So we can divide it into two. If a third one, which works on the legislative framework, is needed, that you should decide amongst yourselves. The agenda could be all participants. And also, I would say that when it comes to stakeholders, subsidiaries member or main, I think everybody has a stake in this. Remove that from the title, but when it comes to the priorities, it has to be on the what is most important for us. So the agenda will be discussed between the co-chairs, and if they call committees or subcommittees to help them with providing the agenda. In between, if you have the meetings amongst yourselves, the co-chairs have the full committee meeting in 15 days as it is needed, because at the beginning I think we might need this to give it a push. So you do it each 2 weeks, bi-weekly amongst yourself. In monthly case, I'll be here, and then there will be things that needs cabinet level decision. We can take it directly to the cabinet, so it will not wait for if it goes through one ministry to the cabinet, and then the agenda of the cabinet is full. It takes a lot of time. If we take it as a priority for this committee, we can take it in the first upcoming cabinet meeting. There will be other legislative issues, financial issues with the budget committee will be involved. I think if we start this way and continue, hopefully we will be able at least to lay the foundation, so to be built upon afterwards. The future government comes as a result of the elections, and then that will address some of the concerns and also the challenges that we have faced so far. One challenge amongst the others is that we, as participants, sometimes we don't take our own work seriously. For example, when the ministries, they send representatives. Today there is one representative, tomorrow there is another, and then when they go back to the ministry, they don't have that coordination system, so the minister is aware of that. I think this is something that shouldn't be repeated in this committee, and I'm sure that we all know the importance of the work here, and we can avoid repetition of the same, because there will be sectors that they take it seriously, and there will be sectors that they are not taking it seriously, affect the others. We don't want this to happen here. We have missed some opportunities in the past few years, I should say. We should have started right at the beginning, but of course, our conditions and circumstances that we are dealing with it is well known. How to the security sector should be invited only based on the needs of the executive committee. When you realize, when you identify that there is a need that they should be brought to the session, they should be brought to the session that is relevant to them, and then they can the rest of the session could continue with the rest of the participants.